What if I told you that the most powerful thing an Amish woman can do when her community formally erases her is simply refuse to leave? No argument, no confrontation. Just presence quiet, daily, unmovable. And that the community built to push her out has no rule for what comes next. What the ban means. The ban is not a rumor. It is not a cold shoulder. It is a formal declaration made during a church service in front of the entire congregation that a baptized member has broken the ordnung and refused to repent. From that moment, every person in that room is religiously obligated to change how they treat her. No shared meals, no business transactions, no accepting rides or gifts. Everything around her is rearranged to make staying unbearable. What she was supposed to do next? The Meidung has a logic built into it. A woman who is shunned is meant to feel the full weight of her separation from every relationship she has ever known, her parents, her sisters, her neighbors, the women she quilted beside for 20 years until that weight becomes too heavy to carry. She is supposed to break, return to the bishop, kneel before the congregation, and recommit herself to the ordnung. The other option is that she leaves. She moves out of the district, finds her way in the English world, and the community closes around her absence like water over a stone. Her name is spoken carefully, if at all. These are the two exits the Meidung was built around. What it does not have an answer for is a woman who looks at both those doors and walks past them. Why she refused to go. The reasons a woman stays are rarely simple. Her children are here. The farm is here. The grave of a parent she buried last spring is here. The language she dreams in, the food she knows how to make, the songs she sang before she could read all of it is here. For a woman raised entirely inside an Amish community, with an 8th grade education, no driver's license, and no experience navigating the English world alone, leaving means walking into nothing. There is also something harder to name. She was born into this community. She was baptized here. She built her life here stone by stone. And she is not willing to let a bishop's declaration take all of that from her, not without making the community earn her departure if it wants it badly enough. Her life inside the community. She wakes up the morning after the ban is announced and does what she has always done. She starts the fire. She makes breakfast. She feeds the animals. She has watched shunning happen to others. The difference is that she is still here and she intends to stay. What her daily life looks like now is a particular kind of strange. She can attend church, but she cannot participate in the fellowship surrounding it. She sits apart. No one passes her food. No woman leans over to whisper during the sermon. She is present in the room and completely alone in it. Neighbors she has known all her life cross to the other side of the road. Women who once visited her kitchen every week now pass her property without turning their heads. She moves through her days in plain sight, seen by everyone, acknowledged by no one. It is a form of social death that does not require her to stop breathing. Her husband's impossible position. An Amish husband whose wife is under the ban faces a situation the community has formal rules about, and those rules are not gentle. According to the teachings that trace back to Jacob Ammon in the 1690s, the same man whose insistence on strict shunning helped create the Amish identity, a husband may not eat at the same table as a shunned wife, may not sleep in the same bed, and may not conduct ordinary marital life as though nothing has changed. He is expected, like every other member, to participate in the avoidance. What this looks like in practice varies by man and by community. Some husbands enforce these rules entirely, sleeping in a separate room, eating separately, speaking to their wife only on practical matters. Others find ways to soften the edges without openly defying the bishop a hand on the shoulder when no one is watching, a meal left warm on the stove without sitting down to share it. But every husband in this situation carries the same impossible weight. He married this woman, he built a home with her, her presence in that home is his daily life. And his church is now asking him to treat her like a stranger inside walls they built together. If he resists that expectation too openly, he risks the ban himself. If he obeys it fully, he dismantles his own marriage one meal and one night apart at a time. What her children see and cannot unsee. Children are not shunned. The ban applies only to baptized adult members, and a mother's children are not required to participate in her avoidance. But what they witness in their home and in their community is something no child processes cleanly or forgets easily. They watch their mother sit apart at meals while their father eats somewhere else. They watch women who once embraced their mother at community gatherings walk past her without a word. They see the way their mother's face changes when she enters a room full of people who have agreed by religious obligation not to see her. Older children understand enough to feel the split. They love their mother. They live in a community that has formally separated itself from her. Every day inside that tension is a lesson in what loyalty costs and what faith demands. Younger children feel the wrongness without the language to name it. They reach for their mother in public and feel the change in how she holds them tighter, maybe, or more briefly, aware of who is watching. Some children will carry this into adulthood as a reason to stay close to the community that protected the rule. Others will carry it as the first crack in their own belief, the moment when the community stopped feeling like home and started feeling like something they would one day have to decide about. The members who must now choose. Here is something the community does not discuss openly. Every member who interacts with a shunned woman outside the permitted boundaries risks discipline themselves. The rules are clear. If a person in good standing shares a meal with her, does business with her, accepts help from her, or behaves as though the ban has not changed things, that person can face the same process that led to her shunning in the first place. This means that her staying creates a problem that ripples outward. It is not only about her anymore. It is about everyone who has to look at her every day and make a deliberate choice to turn away. Some members do this without difficulty. They believe in the Meidung fully. They understand it as spiritual medicine, painful but necessary, and they administer it without hesitation. But others waver. A woman who has been her friend for 30 years finds reasons to linger near the property line. A neighbor's wife leaves something practical near the gate without knocking. A deacon's daughter, barely old enough to have made her own vow, watches all of this and begins asking questions she cannot ask out loud. The longer she stays, the more her presence becomes a test of the community's own conviction, and not everyone passes that test the same way. The bishop's next move when leaving isn't happening. A bishop who announces the ban expects one of two outcomes within a predictable time frame. When neither arrives, no confession, no departure, he finds himself in territory the Ordnung does not fully map. His first response is typically patience framed as pastoral concern. He may send a deacon to speak with her privately. He may visit himself, sitting across from her with measured calm, reminding her that the door to restoration is still open, that the congregation is still willing to receive her back if she is willing to kneel. These conversations are not threats. They are offers, dressed in the language of grace. When those conversations produce nothing, the pressure shifts. Other community leaders may speak with her husband, placing his standing in the community more visibly on the line. Members who have been quietly soft in their avoidance may receive a reminder from the pulpit about what the ban requires of everyone. The boundaries are tightened. The silence around her becomes more deliberate, more coordinated, more complete. What the bishop cannot do, at least not within the structure of his own authority, is forcibly remove her. She owns nothing, and yet she cannot be legally evicted from a life she built. The community's power over her is entirely social and spiritual, and she has already demonstrated that she is willing to live without one and is not ready to surrender the other. The psychological cost of staying in a place that has erased you. Nobody who has studied Amish shunning describes it as a mild experience. Former members who were shunned and left speak of it years later as one of the most psychologically damaging events of their lives, a form of social death that leaves marks on a person's sense of self, belonging, and trust that do not heal cleanly or quickly. For a woman who stays inside the community while being shunned, the experience is something even more specific and sustained. She is not processing the loss of her community from a distance. She is living inside it every single day. She sees the faces that will not meet her eyes. She hears the conversations that stop when she approaches. She walks past the gathering she was part of for decades and keeps walking because stopping would only make visible what everyone already knows. The psychological weight of that kind of sustained invisibility is not small. It reaches into sleep, into appetite, into the simple act of deciding whether to go to the market or stay home. Some women in this position become quieter over time, not defeated, but drawn inward in a way that was not there before. Others find an unexpected steadiness in the act of continuing. Each morning she rises and does what she has always done, becomes its own form of argument proof that she exists, that she matters, that the community's declaration did not actually unmake her. What the years look like. Time does not resolve this situation cleanly. There is no single outcome that applies to every woman who makes this choice, in every community, under every bishop. What happens over months and years depends on the strictness of the district, the temperament of the leadership, the willingness of the husband to hold his position, and the woman's own capacity to endure what endurance requires. In some cases, time produces a quiet softening that no one officially announces. The formal avoidance remains in name, but the edges loosen. A neighbor begins speaking to her again. Her husband returns to the table. The bishop, facing other problems in the community, turns his attention elsewhere. She is still technically under the ban, but the community around her has quietly stopped enforcing it at full strength. It is not restoration, but it is livable. In other cases, the opposite happens. The pressure escalates beyond what she can absorb. Her husband's position in the community becomes untenable. Her children begin suffering consequences she did not anticipate. The cost of staying becomes larger than the cost of leaving, and she finally goes not in defeat exactly, but in exhaustion. And in a small number of cases, something rarer happens. The woman outlasts the pressure entirely. She stays for years. The community cannot remove her. The bishop cannot break her. And eventually, something in the dynamic shifts. A new bishop, a change in circumstance, a private conversation that produces what the public ones never could. She kneels or she does not. But either way, she has changed the shape of something. The community that tried to erase her is different for having failed. The Meidung was designed centuries ago by people who understood community as the most powerful force available to shape human behavior. And they were right. For most people, in most situations, the removal of belonging is enough. It has worked for generations. It works still, in community after community, producing confessions and departures and the kind of social order that allows a closed world to remain closed. But it was not designed for the woman who decides that belonging, real belonging, the kind that does not require her to disappear into compliance, is something she already lost the moment the ban was announced. And that if she has already lost it, she has nothing left to lose by staying. What she does by staying is not always conscious strategy. Often it is grief. It is refusal born from love for the children who still need her in the home. It is fear of the English world she does not know. It is a faith that is genuinely her own, even if the church has formally separated itself from her. But whatever its source, her staying does something the community cannot fully absorb. It forces every member to enact the Meidung not once, in the clean moment of a church announcement, but every single day at the market, at the road's edge, at the fence line between properties. And not everyone can keep doing that indefinitely without beginning to wonder what exactly they are protecting and whether the protection is worth what it costs them to maintain it. She does not win exactly. This is not a story with a clean victory at the end, but she does not disappear. And in a community that declared her invisible, that alone is something.